What's up, guys? I'm Dez, and today we're going to be talking about the OP-03 cards that have been revealed so far. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. We've seen all the leaders so far, and a few character cards, so I think it's going to be pretty interesting. We're going to be taking a look at all the leaders. So the set's going to be called Mighty Enemy. Going to come out for Japan around February 2023, probably somewhere in the middle of the month. The pack art's featuring Katakuri and Rob Lucci, and it just looks super badass. Two fan favorite characters for sure. So it's going to be very interesting. First leader is going to be the black yellow Charlotte Lindlin for life, 5,000 power with the Four Emperors and Big Mob Pirates trait. Her ability is Don X2. When attacking, rest 2 Don. You may trash up to one card from your hand, and if you have one or fewer cards in your life area, put up to one card from the top of your deck on your life area. Now, this effect is huge. It's expensive. You're still getting the 2,000 power out of your Don X2, but the ability to heal, even if you're trashing a card, is very interesting. The yellow cards work a lot around life manipulation, so the ability to heal your leader is the first time we've seen something like this, and I am very curious to see how this works in practice with the rest of the yellow cards. Our next leader is going to be the mono yellow Charlotte Katakuri. Standard stats 5,000 power, 5 life with the Striker attribute, the Big Mom Pirates trait. His ability is also very interesting. Don 1 when attacking. Look it up to one card from either you or your opponent's life area and put it on the top or bottom. Then this leader gains 1,000 power for this battle. So you're getting an extra 1,000 power out of your Don X1 and you're getting information. This card is going to be powerful, I think, for sure. Maybe even the leader you go with for yellow. Um, the extra 1,000 power is nice. You're swinging for 7 and you're getting information out of it. And you can kind of set up for your own triggers or see what your opponent's doing too. Going to be getting off of their life. Um, so this card's going to be strong for sure. There's a lot of triggers in yellow, which makes sense with the life manipulation. So you can set up your own stuff, or you can deny your opponent's triggers. Only thing I don't like about this card, it's going to be very hard to play it on webcam, especially if you're going to be looking at your opponent's life. They're not technically allowed to see it, so they're going to have to show it to you without them seeing it to play like 100% fair. It's going to be interesting how that works out. Next, we have the green yellow dual color Arlong leader for life, 5,000 power with the slasher attribute. And he's got the Fishman, East Blue, and Arlong crew traits. And his ability is Don 2. When attacking, you may rest 1 Don. Play 1 cost 4 or lower character with trigger from your hand. Now, yellow's got a lot of triggers. Right now, green doesn't have too many triggers, and we haven't seen too many characters from OP-03. So I don't know how great this card's going to be. Right now, I'm rating it kind of middle of the pack. You can definitely get a lot of tempo out of it. You're getting a 4 cost or lower, but you're still using 3 Dawn. Obviously, you're still getting the 2,000 power out of that when attacking, but I don't know. It's really going to depend on the quality of the trigger cards. And that's going to be a theme we're going to see a lot throughout this video, is since we don't have a lot of the characters, and a lot of these leaders work specifically with characters of a certain type, um, it's going to come down to the quality of the character cards and the event cards as well. So now we have Captain Curl, our mono green leader, standard stats, 5 life, 5,000 power, slasher attribute, with the East Blue and the Black Cat Pirates type. Activate main, rest 3 Dawn. You may rest 2 characters with the East Blue type. Set this leader to active and rest up to one of your opponent's characters that cost 5 or less. This is a very expensive ability to activate. Setting your leader to active is huge, as we've seen through Eustace Captain Kidd, the starter deck green leader that's still being played in OP-02. East Blue type characters, we've only seen one so far, and he's very strong, but we're going to have to see the quality of the other East Blue green cards. It's still a very expensive effect. Resting 3 Dawn. It's similar to Kidd's effect, right? Where you rest 3, you discard a card. Except this is you rest 3 Dawn and you rest 2 characters. It's going to really depend on if those characters can give value without being rested. Maybe they have on KO effects, something like that. Setting your leader as active and resting an opponent's character that costs 5 or less is very strong, though. I mean, right now in OP-01, there's a lot of strong 5 costs. We got blockers like Queen and Law, Zoro, Luffy. There's going to be even more stuff in OP-02, and then by the time we're at OP-03 as well. So this is definitely a character or a leader that you're going to want to keep your eye on for sure. Now we have the fan favorite Portgas the Ace. Standard stats, 5 life, 5,000 power with the special attribute and the Whitebeard's pirate trait. This now the effect is a little bit of a meme. I'm sure the alt leader is going to go crazy on the market just because it's Ace. But when this leader attacks or is being attacked, you might trash any number of event or stage cards from your hand. And for each card trashed, you gain 1,000 power for this leader during this battle. Now, this is either player's turn whenever this leader attacks or is being attacked. You could technically discard your whole hand if you're all events or stage cards. It's kind of memey. I don't think it's going to be very good. I think people are going to play it regardless because it's Ace. And that's really all I have to say about that one. Now we have Nami. Now this is a very interesting leader. Don't pay too much attention to the alt art. It's not real. I just think it's a pretty good depiction of what the real one will look like. If you read the effect, you can obviously tell there's some things in there that don't line up. But the effect is still kind of crazy, and you might be reading that and thinking, oh, this is not real. But then you look at the real effect and, oh, it's actually, that part is real. So standard stats, 5 life, 5,000 power with the wisdom attribute, and the East blue type. So no straw hat type on this Nami. Now she's the first leader with an additional rule, which states that when your deck reaches 0 cards, you win the match. And your ability is Don 1. When your opponent takes damage to their life through the attack of this leader exclusively, you might trash 1 card from the top of your deck. So she's basically getting an extra 5 mils throughout the deck. I don't think there's enough support for like drawing in blue for her to be very strong on release unless we get some crazy draw cards in blue from OP-03 that we haven't seen yet. But just cool that we have these additional effects on leaders and things like that. It's a very interesting card and something that's definitely going to be scaling into the future with more cards for blue that get revealed. There's things like the Mihawk, the 2k counter for cost 5k, that allows you to draw 2 and trash 2. There's cards like Love Beam. That's really all the draw. Maybe like Sentimaru with Pacifistas to get additional cards out of your deck. But that's really the only support we have for this right now. But definitely something to keep your eye on. It's a Nami leader. The alt art's going to be insanely expensive, I'm sure, if it looks anything close to this, which looks amazing. And shout out to Nami Peace TCG. I think they made this. It's a Spanish Twitter page, so I'm not 100% sure if they made it or if they just reposted it, but it looks great. And probably pretty close to what the real one would look like. So now we have Iceberg. Now this is another interesting leader. Standard stats, 5 life, 5,000 power with the wisdom attribute, and the Water 7 and Galley Law Company, 2 new typings, and honestly just from one of the best arcs in One Piece. This leader cannot attack, but his activate main effect, Dom -1, sticking with the purple theme of minusing Dom, you may rest this leader and play up to 1 character with the Galley Law Company type that costs 5 or less from your hand. Now, this is another one, really going to depend on the quality of the Galley Law cards. We've only seen art for Poly. We haven't seen any actual effects for them yet. But -1 Don for a character that's 5 or less seems pretty good. You know, you're sacrificing the leader attack, but definitely has some potential for sure if the if the Galley Law Company cards are good. Now we have Rob Lucci. Black leader, 5,000 power, 5 life with the CP9 trait. Your turn, once per turn, you may discard 2 cards from your hand. When an opponent's character is KO'd, put this leader to active. So it's an expensive effect, and you also have to KO a character. We know that restand on a leader is strong. Discarding 2 cards and having to KO a character seems very expensive. Black is pretty easy to KO stuff with, so that's not too much of an effect, but discarding 2 cards is pretty relevant in this game where there's not too much card draw. I don't think this leader's great. I think that even in the set 2, if you're going to be, set 3, if you're going to be playing black, probably going to be playing Smoker, or a mono or a dual color leader. So I don't think it's great. Probably going to be lower middle, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe black gets some crazy support, CP9 gets some crazy support. So we're just going to have to wait and see about that. Now we're getting on to our first character card. Charlotte Perispiro, cost 3, 5,000 power with the special attribute and the Big Mom Pirates trait. Now he's on KO. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal a Big Mom Pirates type card, and add it to your hand. Turn the rest to the bottom of your deck in any order. With a trigger of you may discard 1 card from your hand to play this card. Stats are really good. 5,000 power. If you're swinging against anything that's not Whitebeard, it's going to be a pretty relevant swing. Force some cards out of their hand or take a life or clear characters. Card draw is always great. You're only looking at the top 3, so a little bit of a downside. You have to hit a Big Mom Pirates card in the top 3. It's got Trigger, which a lot of the yellow cards do, and a lot of yellow has Life Manipulation. You can set up for the triggers. I think it's definitely going to be a 3 of card, 3 or a 4 of card for sure. That's really all I have to say about Perispero. Now we have Jin. Now this card is very strong if the East Blue cards are good. Cost 4, 5,000 power with the Striker attribute, the East Blue and Krieg Pirates trait. On play, if your leader has the East Blue type, which means as of now we're only going to be playing this in Arlong or Kuro, rest up to 2 of your opponent's characters that cost 4 or less. Now if you're not familiar, right now there's a card called Izo, which is a 3 cost, rest 1 4 or less with a 2k counter. This is kind of like an Izo on crack if you're playing East Blue. It doesn't have the 2k counter, but it does have the 1k counter, so it still has counter, and you're resting 2 4 costs or less. Now that's pretty big. We know that Kuro's effect is also kind of alright. So right now with the 2 East Blue cards we've seen, it's looking alright. We're obviously gonna have to fill out a whole deck, so we're gonna have to see how the rest of the support is. But East Blue seems alright right now. And also the alt art is incredible. I mean, he's definitely like a B or not even like a D character or an E character from like their early episodes, but that alt art is just insanely good. Now we have some cards from One Piece Odyssey, which if you didn't know is a new video game coming out I think it's middle of January. We have some cards coming out in OP-03 that are going to be characters from that game. We have Lim and Adayo, red characters from both of them. Lin is a 3 cost, 2,000 power with the Odyssey trait, who is a blocker and says that on your opponent's turn, if this card's KO'd, give minus 2,000 power to up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters. So minusing 2,000 on your opponent's leader or characters is pretty strong. You can kind of get an extra counter out of that in maybe more defensive red decks. I can see this being pretty strong. I know red's very aggressive right now, but then we have Whitebeard and things like coming out where you get a little bit more defensive. So we're going to have to see what the state of red is when this card comes out. But I think it has potential for sure. Minus 2,000 power is pretty relevant. She has no counter on her, so that's the downside, but a blocker that can also give defensive benefit when killed, pretty good. Now we have the other red character, 4 cost, 5,000 power with the Odyssey trait. Don 1, when attacking, your opponent can activate blockers with 2,000 power or less during this battle. Kind of like a mini Shanks or a mini Luffy, negating your opponents from activating blockers. Definitely a more aggressive card, and it has counter on it. Gonna have to see how it is. It doesn't have rush, which is the main problem with it. It's gonna be hard to kind of get it off, but if you do get it off, I think it'll be pretty alright. The counter is always a nice benefit. And negating blockers is good. Shanks doesn't really see play right now, which has basically the same effect, and it has rush. Obviously, they're different cards, but we're just gonna have to see how this fits into the red decks at the time of its release. Now we have Buggy. Now I love this artwork. Buggy's a great character, and this art is incredible. He's a 1 cost, 3,000 power with the Slasher attribute and the Buggy Pirates trait. This character can't be KO'd in battle with slash attribute characters or leaders. I love that. Going back to his Devil Fruit, I think that's hilarious. And he's a searcher. On play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Reveal 1 red event card. So this can see play in any red deck, basically. And take it to your hand. Place the rest of the cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. Now, he's a 1 cost 3k that can't be KO'd by a lot of things. So that's going to sit on board. 2 Dawn on him, puts him at 5k, lets you swing. And he's a searcher. I think this card's going to be pretty relevant. Now we have our first alt art event card. And it's so fitting that it's Ace. I mean, this art looks incredible. I can't wait to see it in person. It's going to be called Fire Fist. It's a red event, costs 3 of the Whitebeard Pirates trait. And the effect reads, main, you may discard 1 event from your hand KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 5,000 or less power, and up to one of your opponent's characters with 4,000 or less power. So discarding an event, kind of a specific requirement, but killing two decently. I mean, 4,000 not great, but a 5K is nice. I think it's pretty good. 3 cost. It's kind of expensive with the event discard and the 3 cost, but it's interesting for sure. And I mean, the art on the alt art is insanely good. And it's got a trigger effect too to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 5,000 or less power. So it's activating like the secondary effect of the card, or I guess that's the best effect. But the trigger's strong. The card overall, not great. I don't think, but we're gonna have to see how many events the decks that this card would be played in are playing. If they're playing a good amount of events, then maybe it's all right. It's a lot of control. Now we have our first black card, Bluno, with a cost of 5 and a 6k power with the striker attribute in the CP9 trait. Don 1, this card gains blocker. Pretty good. On KO, play up to one character with a cost of 4 or less whose type contains CP from your trash and rest it. So this is cool. You're recycling cards from your trash. You can get on play effects. 4 or less is a pretty good range. You can get another blocker. Well, they're rested actually, so you could get another blocker, but they're not going to be live. Committing one Don to this card to gain blocker is not amazing, but it's not bad. The issue is that you're committing the Don, and then if you're going to use the blocker effect, you can't swing with it. But I still think it's all right. Definitely going to see play. It's going to have to be compared to the other black blockers at the time, but it's one of the first CP9 cards we've seen. So if there's a deck that revolves more around the CP9 stuff and less of the black blockers that we've gotten from set 2, then this card's going to be definitely see some play. And it's got the counter 1000 on it, so it's not always a dead card. I think it's all right. I think it's looking kind of like a 2 of kind of card, but we'll have to see. And that's all the leaked cards we've had so far. There's definitely going to be more coming out. The set's coming out in February for Japan, so over the next month or so, we're definitely going to get a ramp up of all of the leaked cards. I'll try to do videos talking about them maybe once a week, week and a half as we get more stuff revealed. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe for more OPTCG content. Check me out on the socials. Des the Grinder on Twitch as well. And a shout out to Dreamy on Reddit for this beautiful background I've been using for a lot of my content. Thanks for watching, guys.